Yo, book nerds! I had hoped to have this video done last week. Life happens and I couldn't get it done in time because me and my daughter got exposed to COVID and we had to quarantine and I didn't have access to my recording equipment. But better late than never. I finished reading Glensheen'S Daughter, the Marjorie Congdon story by Sharon Darby Hendry. This story had me on the edge of my seat the entire way through. I could not put it down. It is definitely one of the best nonfiction books I've ever read. This story is about the murders that happened at the Glensheen Mansion. The Glensheen Mansion is in Duluth, Minnesota, and it hits really close to home for me because I live in Minnesota. I've been to Duluth, I've been to the Glensheen Mansion, and these crazy events happened in my state, and it is just unreal. It is insanity. It feels like it should be in a movie, not real life. So, brief background on this story. Chester Congdon is the millionaire that built the Glensheen Mansion in Duluth. He had a family, a bunch of kids. One of his daughters was named Elizabeth Congdon. She never got married, but she adopted two daughters, and one of those daughters was Marjorie Congdon. And Elizabeth Congdon was murdered in the Glensheen Mansion, and all the evidence points to Marjorie and her husband Roger. And this story does such a great job of diving into Marjorie growing up, what she was like, and then when the murders happened, and then it goes through all the evidence, and it follows Roger's trial and then Marjorie's trial. And I won't tell you what happened. I mean, you can Google it. This is all historical stuff, but I won't spoil it for you. I won't tell you what the verdicts were, but it is just insanity. And it's not even just that one murder. There's multiple murders that happen, and there's also arsons that happen, and just all this stuff that's surrounding this woman, and either A, she's doing it, or B, she is the most unlucky woman in the world, and bad things just happen coincidentally around her. And it is just such a insane story, and I could not put it down. It was just so intense, especially in Roger's trial. The way Sharon writes that part, like, they give you bits from the defense and then bits from the prosecution, and both sides are really good, and then it's like, he did it, he didn't do it, he did it, he didn't do it. I kept changing my mind. I could not decide. And then the ending, like, I have an opinion now and I won't share it because I don't want to ruin it, but oh my gosh, I was on the edge of my seat the whole time reading this book, and I had to just keep reading because I had to find out what was going to happen, and I had to find out if they were guilty or innocent. And oh my gosh, just highly, highly, highly recommend this book. This was my pick for Nonfiction November, and I definitely am not disappointed. I said in a previous video that I bought this book when I was 16. I am now 26 and I hadn't read it. This book had been on my TBR for 10 years. That is way, way too long. And oh my gosh, after reading it, why did I wait so long? I don't know. 5 stars. 5 stars, definitely recommend this. The Glensheen murders happened in Minnesota, but Marjorie ended up moving to Arizona, so a lot of the story takes place in Arizona. So if you're from Minnesota or you're from Arizona, this story probably is going to hit close to home to you. If you're not from those areas, I feel like you'll still really enjoy this story because it's intense, it's insane. It's just almost like it's too crazy to be real. Like, how could this all really have happened? And Marjorie, oh my gosh, she is quite a character herself. Like, oh my gosh, there's like some of the things she does. Like, this woman's just so weird. Like, she brought a novel to her murder trial and sat there reading in the courtroom while she was on trial for murder. Like, what? Who does that? You're on trial for murder and you're over there reading a book. It was just, she's just so weird and crazy, and I just could not put this book down. So go read Glensheen's Daughter. I buddy read this with my dad's girlfriend and she loved it just as much as I did. We were like neck and neck reading it, and once we had read a little bit, we'd go find each other and be like, oh my gosh, did you get to this part yet? Because, oh my gosh, it's insane. And we did that through the entire thing. It is so fun to buddy read a book and have you both be super into it and want to talk about it all the time. So now that I finished Glensheen's Daughter, I of course have started something else. I decided to start Contemplative Prayer by Thomas Merton. The reason I decided to read this is kind of complicated. There's kind of a few reasons. So when I was going through my divorce, I was having a really rough time. I was super depressed, and I am a Christian and I was really struggling to pray. So I told my mom that I was struggling with praying, and she bought me this book because she heard that it was a good book on prayer. And so since my mom recently bought it for me, I feel like I should read it. I try to read books that people buy me fairly quickly out of respect for them and gratitude for them for thinking of me as they bought me a book. And the other reason I decided to read this now is since it's a book on prayer and it's a Christian book, it is Christmas time. It is Advent, and Christians that celebrate Advent, we are trying to prepare ourselves for Jesus' coming, so I figured this would be a good book to help me with my prayer issues and help me prepare for Christmas and prepare for Jesus. If you're not Christian, I can understand why this would not interest you, but it is interesting to me. It is already way different than I thought it was going to be. Thomas Merton actually wrote this for monks, and I did not know that going into this, but I'm actually still getting a lot out of it. And it is very, very interesting. This is a classic work. I love classics. It's just a very different kind of classic. I've never really read anything that is religious and classic. So it's interesting. It is very dense so far, so it might take me a while. I've kind of had to read a chapter and then let that chapter simmer for a little while before I continue, but we're gonna get through it. It is really short. It's not even 100 pages. Right now I'm on page 27, so I will talk more about this when I am done with it. I'm hoping to have it done by the end of the year. I don't know if that'll happen. If things get crazy again, we'll just have to see, because again, life happens. What are you guys reading right now? Have any of you read Glensheen's Daughter? Have any of you read Contemplative Prayer? If so, let me know your thoughts in the comments and let's chat about it. Be sure to like this video if you enjoyed it, and if you haven't yet, be sure to subscribe to my channel. And thanks for talking books with me.